Hello and welcome to my talk on media management in the Jamstack. My name is Tamas and I work as a developer evangelist at a company called Cloudinary, and I also happen to be a Google developer expert in web technologies. So thank you very much for joining me on this talk, where I'm going to talk to you about the various options that you have to work with and manage your media in the Jamstack. So before we start, here's a disclaimer for you. The websites that appear throughout this presentation were chosen at random. Okay, so I have nothing against these sites, or I have not been endorsed by these sites. I just picked a few and we're going to go with them as examples. So we all know what is the Jamstack. The Jamstack is really just an architecture that is designed to bring better experience to the web by creating fast and secure sites that are served on edge servers. So we also know that static site generators exist to create these static pages at build time, and then we basically take those static pages, those HTML files, and we place them on CDNs. Now the combination of the two, CDNs plus pre-built HTML, equals to fast websites. And there is in fact a sort of competition going on by Eleventy, and if you take a look at this website called Speedlify, you will find quite a number of websites that are competing for the fastest website. And this particular tool, Speedlify, is showing you a lot of information about the site, the speed, and how the particular site is actually structured. It's quite an interesting thing, so I do encourage you to take a look at that. Now, I picked, as I said, a few random projects, and we can see that they are all running on some sort of a Jamstack provider. So here's an example where the website is running on the servers of Netlify. Another example where the server is Cloudflare, so this particular site is running on the Cloudflare CDNs. And yet another example where we can see that the server behind this particular website is Vercel. Now, probably you're like, I get it. Fast websites, CDN, pre-generated static pages, it all works fine. Now the question is, what happens when you add media, when you add images, when you add videos into this mix? This is when things become really interesting and maybe complicated as well. So I like this quote from last year's Web Almanac report, which is a report that Google produces, and it's about general statistics about the internet. And the media chapter had this phrase: virtually every web page depends on images. And this couldn't be further away from the truth. If you look at any website today, you will see that there are quite a number of requests: HTML files, JavaScript files, CSS files. But the major proportion of the requests, generally speaking, is images. So here's another example website where you can see there were 8 requests out of 25 that are images. And if you take a look at the size, it's about 70% of the entire website. So only 70% of the kilobytes were transferred due to images. And if we look at this on a nice little line chart, clearly you can see that the orange line, which is very close to the total blue purplish line on top, the image line is very close to that. So that means that, again, a major portion of this site is made up of images. So that's the heaviest resource that you have on your page. And of course, there are other examples. So this particular example is an e-commerce website, and you can see that there were quite many megabytes transferred, and there were 131 images on this single page, which lists the products of this particular organization. Now, how can you manage images when it comes to the Jamstack? And in my view, there are 3 options that you have. The first one is that you add your images to this local assets folder, and then you use your favorite static site generator to generate your site, and then using various options, you would embed these images from your local folder and maybe run it through some optimization. You can also add images to Headless Cmss, so you can pick your Headless CMS of choice and upload your images there, or you can use an image CDN. So let's take a look at these 3 options a little bit more in detail. So when you add images to your local assets folder and use your static site generator of your choice, generally speaking, you are going to be increasing your build time or your build cycle, because the static site generator not only has to go through your HTML files and your JavaScript and your CSS, but it also needs to somehow optimize your local assets, your images. Usually they do this via Sharp. Now, if you are happy with some extended and prolonged build cycles, this may be a good option for you. Then the second option is Headless CMSs. Now, Headless CMSs allow you to store your images remotely. What they allow you to do is to upload images to the CMS. So in the same way how you would store your entire content or a blog post, you could store multiple images. Now, some Headless CMSs allow you to do very good transformations and optimizations for your images, meaning that you can reduce the size and crop them. Some don't do that at all. So again, if you're using a CMS that has very good plugins and very good transformation and optimization systems in place, then it's great. If not, then you may have an issue where you need to further manipulate that image so that you get a very good web performance at the end of the day. And then the last option that you have is using an image CDN, using a provider that basically helps you to store the images and helps you to optimize and transform them on the fly. So normally how image CDNs work is that you upload your image to a particular service, and then that service allows you to manipulate that image when you request the image. So upon request, you could resize the image, you could transform the image, and you could do a lot of options. Now, what this means, and this is just my personal opinion, and of course I'm a little bit biased because I work for one of these image CDN companies, namely Cloudinary. So my choice out of the three would be, of course, using an image CDN, because I don't need to worry about how to optimize and how to transform my image. I am relying on an expert in the field, a domain expert in images and videos, to do the work for me. So in my book, the formula looks like this. You have CDNs, you have the pre-built HTML, and you have media assets on a CDN that will yield an even faster site. Now, of course, if you take a look at Lighthouse, there are lots of other things that image CDNs can help you with. You may have seen these messages: properly size your images, serve images in next-gen formats, efficiently encode your images. These are all options that the image CDNs can help you with, and they can do this work for you pretty much automatically, so that your Lighthouse score and sometimes your core Web Vitals score is also going to change in a positive direction. Generally speaking, also remember that working with media is difficult. There are a myriad of image formats out there. There are a lot of video formats out there. There are things like device per pixel ratios. There are responsive images. There's lazy loading. There's video streaming, and I could go on. Again, using an image CDN would help you to work with all of these. And what I like to say, and this is especially relevant to the Jamstack, is that there's an API for that. In the same way how Apple said in 2009 that there's an app for that, literally that was an app to do whatever you wanted on your new iPhone, in today's ecosystem in the Jamstack, there's an API for that. Doesn't matter what you want to do in the Jamstack, you will find an API or an SDK that will allow you to do that particular functionality. And of course, that's the same for images and media. Now, I prepared a sample application, which I aptly named Know Your Media, and it's available on knowyourmedia.dev. So I'm going to show this resource to you now, and then you can further investigate how it looks like. Okay, so this is the site that I mentioned, Know Your Media, and I prepared some of the most common image optimization solutions on a single page. So they're CSS only, using Image Optim, Sharp, Cloudinary, Photoshop, and GIMP. These are all tools that you could use to optimize your media. Now, if you click on Show on CSS only, for example, I'm going to give you statistics about the image that you see here. So this particular image is actually being shown on a 450 by 600 pixel element, but the actual image size is much larger, which is of course not great. The image size is very large as well. That again is not ideal. And since I'm using the Chrome browser, sending an image JPEG as opposed to a WebP, well, debatable. A WebP probably would be a much better format to send. And if you click on the I button, you will get some additional information about the actual CSS optimization. Bear in mind, optimization is in inverted commas here. Now let me open the Cloudinary example. You will see exactly the same image, but this is automatically serving a WebP and automatically serves the right image dimensions for me. You can take a look at the information here to see how this is done exactly. And please feel free to explore the additional examples found on this page. Okay, so here's a bunch of resources. There's a lot of development happening in the Jamstack with regards to image components by various static site generators. And I added the links to some of these. There are of course more. Please explore the capabilities of them. Also have a look at the static site generator that you use, the headless CMS that you use, and make the right choice for using and handling, optimizing, and transforming your media in the Jamstack. Thank you very much for your attention.